Hello, welcome to our backtesting jam session. This is Raman from Trading with Venus. As usual, we are back with our backtesting jam session here. The purpose of doing these backtesting sessions is to really get comfortable with price action, to really understand how price action works, how to read the candlesticks, how to use the price action in order to understand what the market is going to do next. So all we're really trying to understand is understand market moves and based on how the candlesticks move. Because once we understand how the market moves and what has happened previously, so we're looking for chart patterns, we're looking for candlesticks, we're looking for the shape, size of the candlesticks, where they are in relation to support and resistance. So the strategy itself isn't very complicated. We don't have a ton of indicators or anything like that. In fact, we don't have any indicators here. All we're really looking at is what price is doing, and based on what the price is doing or what it has just done, we are looking at what's going to happen next. And the more we do this, the more we ingrain this in our brains, so that the benefit of this is that when this happens in the live market conditions, you will remember that last time this type of thing happened, this is how price had reacted. And most of the time we'll get similar type of price behavior going forward as well. We are not going to take into account any of the news events and comments and stuff like that that have come out, because we just don't have that information that is available in the software. And the software that I'm using here is called Forex Tester 3. And I will put in a link. I keep saying that I'll put in a link. If you want to use that, you could get a bit of a discount from there. All right, so let's get started. We are looking at the daily candlesticks here, and based on what the price is doing, we will make decisions on what's going to happen next. So I invite you to join me, and as we are going through, be ready to play the guessing game. So make sure you put your comments in the or your guesses in the comments section. So we'll make sure, I'll make sure I take a look at it. And also, you know what, don't worry about it, whether it's right or wrong. The purpose of this really is to just guess. We are not really looking to be perfect in terms of our guessing. This is not really any sort of competition. So feel free to provide your guesses. And the more you actually engage with the game, the better you will find your results will be in your own personal trading as well. And actually, just a quick disclaimer, this is for educational purposes only and is not intended to be investment advice. I'm not an investment advisor, and as such, I cannot provide that. So hello and welcome, everyone. Let's get going here. All right, everyone ready? Okay. Hey, Pritpal, Shuman, Danielle, welcome. Thank you for joining. All right, so I think my chart has moved a little bit. This is not where we were last time we left it. I did, my computer restarted, so as a result, I'm not sure where we are, but the chart is open and we'll just pick it up from here. It doesn't matter where we were yesterday, we'll just start over again or start from where we are here. All right, so let's take a look. We'll zoom out first of all. It's very important to take an inventory of where we are with the prices in relation to everything else, that blue screen of that. So here, the reason there's a gap, it's just missing data because we're looking at data from 2010, actually, 11/15/2010. So that's why it's there's missing data. But we'll just ignore that. Pretend there's some candlesticks, and now we have gone down. So this is where we are in the grand scheme of things. If we just zoom out a little bit, we can see that price has gone up, and then now it's coming back down. It has switched directions. Now we are into this area here that price had dealt in. All right, so let's get started here. Okay, so right now we have a bearish candlestick here. And then, so what do we expect here now? We have a nice bearish candlestick. It had trouble here, and now it has closed to the downside. So tell me, what are we looking for here? Where do we expect the price to go? Okay, Bell says down, Sunny says up. All right. Shun says down. All right, so let's take a look. So we have a bearish candle close here. It's not a bearish engulfing, like it doesn't close below this previous pin. So that would be a bit of a concern. So I have lots of downs and one up. So I would look for a further move to the downside here into this level. But what could happen is, see how the price has not broken the low. So if price does not break the low here, then we have a problem. Then it could go all the way up. So it's important for us to, for the price to stay below this level, and also for it to close below the low. And then we will take a look. So Sunny, so we'll pretend that the gap doesn't exist, because it's not truly a gap. So we're not looking to fill the gap, because it's just a data missing from the software as opposed to there actually being a gap. So that's the difference here. So it's not a real gap, it's just a pretend gap. So we'll pretend that there are candlesticks here. It's just data missing. So, all right, so let's take a look. So we don't need to go forward. Okay, here we go. All right, so now we were looking for down. Oh, so this is what I was looking for, price to pull back into that level, because we were looking for price to stay below this level here. So generally price will do pullbacks as it continues on. So now we have a big bearish engulfing candle close here. So where do we expect the price to go next? So for me here, I like this bearish engulfing candle close. It's a nice solid candle close to the downside. It closes below this previous support and resistance area. So what do we expect it to do now? So because we have a nice candle close to the downside, I would look for a pullback and a further drop. So my bias is to the downside, and I'm looking for price to get into this next support and resistance area. So I'm looking for a pullback and a drop. So we have down, sideways, and so level is broken. So yeah, so I'm looking for a retest and then a drop. So my bias is to the downside. So let's take a look. Okay, so we have a pullback right into this previous level, just like this one, right? So we had a drop, a pullback, drop, pullback. So as long as price stays below this level, so this is where I would go to a smaller time frame, an hour or 15-minute chart. And as long as price stays down here, I'm looking for price to drop once again. So let's take a look. We have a pullback all the way into this previous level. So what do we expect price to do now? So this is where looking at that previous support resistance level on a smaller time frame will really help, because once price starts to hold above this, chances are it's going to go up. So what are we looking for next? What can we expect here? So here I would be looking for price to go up. Shimon says up, yeah. So I'd be looking for price to either test this area, or it could go higher, all the way back here into the support and resistance area. So basically I'm looking for price to go up. First target would be right here, and looking for price to retest this area once again. So let's take a look. Okay, so it just retested this one here. So went right into this previous support or resistance. Then we have a bearish candle close. What do we expect price to do next? So here I will be looking for, because price is holding below this level, I will look to see a continuation move to the downside. So I'm looking for price to come back and test these lows once again. and see if it will go down. So I'm saying down, and Shimon says up. So let's take a look. I would be looking for price to go down. So let's see. Okay, so it retested this level once again, held below this previous support resistance level, and then we have a bearish candle close. So what do we expect price to do now? Sunny says another lower low, so looking for price to drop. I will be looking for price to drop here as well. So I'm looking for a retest of this low here, and then next target would be this support and resistance level down here. So my bias still remains to the downside. So Pritpal says up, Shimon says down, then it says down. So let's take a look. There we go. So we have now closed all the way into the next support and resistance level here. What do we expect next? So for me here, so now we are into the support level here. I would be looking for price to perhaps give us a pullback into that level here. But I like this bearish engulfing candle close here. It's finally broken below this level here. So I will be looking for price to drop here. So Shimon says, made a lot of money. Yep, that's a nice move to capture. So now where do we expect it to go? So Shimon says up, Sun says retracement and then down. Yeah, I would be looking for a pullback here and then a further drop. So the first target would be the base of this candle. So I'm looking for this type of a move and then for price to drop lower into the next support and resistance level. So let's take a look. Okay, so we saw a pullback and now we have this really kind of a neutral move here because we have pin bars on both, or pins on both sides. This is the indecision candle, very small candle body, and we have pins on both sides, so it makes it a very neutral candle. So from here, where do we expect price to go? So this is an interesting point. So what I would be looking for is see if the price will stay below this level. So this is where we would go to a smaller time frame. And if the price stays below this 1.4850 level, then looking for price to go down, or otherwise we're looking for price to go up. So it could go all the way up into this previous level here, or it could even go higher. So the key here is this level here. So John says, I'm here. Hey, John. All right. Up on bulls. Okay. So everybody's saying back higher. So let's take a look. Okay. So still pushing lower. What do we expect price to go now? So right now, what I see here is our bias still stays to the downside. We haven't really seen, in the last few candles, we haven't seen a green one. So here, because price stayed, so this is where we want to kind of take a look at this on the lower time frame. And if it stays below, then price is likely to continue lower. So next candle, we're looking for an up. So I'm still looking for price to come down. I think the overall bias still is to the downside. So, all right, so let's take a look. All right, so we have some people on the upside and others on the downside. Let's take a look. So I'm on the down team. So let's see if that happens. Oh, so yes, we made some money here. So pressure is, in my opinion, pressure is still to the bias is still to the downside here. We did have this indecision candle, which can be followed by a bullish candle because, well, it's because it's indecision, right? So now we have a big bearish drop. Where do we expect price to go next? What are we expecting here? Okay, any guesses? What are we looking for price to do? Okay, so here for me, because it's a nice bearish candle close here, very solid bearish candle, I will look for a pullback back into this support and resistance area, and then look for a drop into the next one here. So I'm looking for price to pull back, and if it stays below this level, looking for it to drop. So that's what I'm hearing as well. So still looking for a down move, and we could have a pullback. All right, let's see. There we go. So we had a pullback and a drop. Now what do we expect here? Okay, so here I like this candle close here. It's closed. It's made a low here and lower high. So bias is still to the downside. So in this case, I will be looking for price to drop into this level or even further down into the next support and resistance, or the support and resistance lower here. So if I'll say test the support lower, yes, I will look for price to go lower here. I do like this candle here. Okay, so it did go lower, and now we have a bullish pin bar. So it came right into this support and resistance area here previously where price had reacted. So see how we had a bullish pin bar here, and now we have the same one. Okay. Yeah, we're trying to guess the future here. So now we have a bullish pin bar. Where do we expect the price to go from here? So because it's a bullish pin bar, I'll be looking for price to go back into this level here. And so profitably says up. I will be looking for price to test this level once again, or it could also go higher because we had a nice drop here. So once we have nice drop, we generally see pullback. So the idea would be either pull back into here or higher. So Schumann says up, John says up, Pritpal says up. Very good. All right. So I am on your team too. Let's see where this goes, if it will go up. Okay. So we are into the next support and resistance area. What do we expect here? So in this case here, this is not a particularly strong bullish candle. And as a result of that, we would have to be careful here. So this is a strong candle, that's a strong candle, that's a strong candle. This is a weak candle. And the reason it's a weak candle is because we do have bullish candle, but we have a large pin on the top. So when we have a bearish candle, we want a large pin on the top. When we have a bullish candle, we want a large pin on the bottom because that suggests that where the momentum, or that tells us where the momentum is. So in this case, so under live market conditions, I would look for price to, I would look on the lower time frame at this support and resistance area. So if price stays below this 156.58 level, then I will be looking for price to drop. So overall, my bias is still to the downside, and I'm looking for price to do one of these. However, if it closes above, then I'm looking for price to go higher. So this is where kind of doing it on a daily chart or going down to a smaller time frame helps. So let's take a look. Okay, so I went and tested this level once again, and then came all the way down, but closed with a very neutral or closed in a neutral position. So now we have a neutral candle close here. Where to from here? What do you think? Okay, any guesses? All right, so in my opinion here, again, I would be looking for, because this is a completely neutral candle, excuse me, and the bias is to the downside. So my bias will still remain to the downside. However, I would pay attention on a smaller time frame because the price could pull back here, do a retest, and then drop. So I'm looking, I would go to a lower time frame and look at this level. So if the price goes and retests this level but holds below, then I'm looking for a drop, because this one could go either way, but this level will be the key. So overall, my bias still stays to the downside. So let's take a look. Very big bullish candle close. So we're broken above the high. And this is where breaking above going to a lower time frame is important, because this move here will show up on our lower time frame. Because once it starts holding above here, then we are back into we're looking for next move to the high. So what do we expect now? Okay, any guesses? We have a nice bullish candle close here. Where do we expect the price to go from here? So here I will be looking for a pullback and then another move higher into this 1.5850 area. So let's take a look. Okay, so we have a pullback right into this previous support and resistance area. And now we have an interesting candle close because we have a bearish candle, but there is a pin in the bottom here as well. So the candle body isn't huge. This could just be a pullback. Now, where do we go from here? So for me here, it's an iffy situation. So this is probably not the most tradable setup that I would like to trade. This is when you go to a different chart and find something that is that's stronger. So here I would look for price to see what happens again at this level here, 1.5770 area. If price stays below this, then I would be looking for a continuation to the downside. But if closes above, then I'm looking for price to go higher here. So let's take a look. Okay, so yeah, Pritpal, you're correct. It can go sideways for a while here, just like it went right here, right here. Price was just going sideways. So I agree with you that it could go sideways. So what do we expect price to do now? So the way I see this is that we have a pin on top, we have a small candle body close here. So it's a neutral candle. So even though the candle body is candle body is green, I see this as a neutral candle. And the reason for this is because we have a pin that's larger than the candle body. So in this case, again, this resistance level will be very important. So if price stays below the resistance level, then I'm looking for price to drop. So here, because we have such a large pin here, I think price could drop here. But again, I would go to a smaller time frame and take a look. So let's see. Okay, so it dropped and now it's pushing higher. Now what do we expect? So in this case here, I would be looking for price to test this high once again. And now we have a bullish candle close here. So I would look for price to test the high. And if it closes above, it could go all the way up there. So my bias is to the upside, looking for price to test the high, this support and resistance level up here first. And then if it closes above, then looking for the next one. Okay, so this is where it's important. So because we are into this resistance, it hasn't quite closed yet. So this candle here is very similar to this one, where price was just neutral. So what do we expect here? For me, I would be looking for price to hold below this 1.5850 level, because if it holds below this level here, this support level turning into resistance here, if it holds below this level, then I'm looking for price to drop. This candle in itself is a very neutral candle because we have pins on both sides. There's really no market direction. We have a small candle body close. Even though it's red, this is actually a neutral candle. So not too much bearishness in it. The reason I would look for price to stay below, if it stays below, looking for it to go lower, is because there's still overall in a down move. We actually don't know, Gregory, if this is not a retracement, or like we have no idea of knowing whether this is a this is a reversal and it's going to go all the way up, or if it's just a drop, retracement, another drop. We don't. And the only way we can sort of make that educated guess is if we get a good, strong candle body close. So right now what I'm seeing is we have pins going into this support and resistance area. Price seems to be holding below it. So if price holds below it again, tests it again, holds below, then chances are quite high that price will go lower. So let's take a look. Okay, so price tests the level once again. And we have another pin on this side. So now overall price is making higher lows and higher highs. So this is an interesting situation. Now I would actually be concerned about this one. And this is where I would not trade that. trade this particular pair. And the reason for that is that now we have had several days of pushing into that area, and then we have had price try that area several times, and we still have higher lows and higher highs. And as a result of that, it could go higher. And that's where I would be concerned about. So this is when I would look for a different chart to trade. But again, this key thing is this area. So if it stays below this area, it could drop. So I'm looking for price to retest into this area and then see if we could get a drop. But if it closes on the other side, we're looking for price to go on the other. Looking for price to go higher. So Shuman, the question is, won't we be missing most of the move? Excuse me. No, this is where we want to look at multiple different pairs on the daily basis, right? So all we really need is a couple of pairs that have good trade setups, and one of those that would work out in our direction. So ultimately, we just need one pair that has a really good setup and it works out. So that's all we're looking for. So it doesn't matter if if you're looking at 20 different charts or 10 different charts or 5 different charts, all we have to do is look for one good trade setup. So like a pin bar or something like that, double top, whatever. So we're looking for one of those trade setups. And once we see that, the idea is that we take full advantage of that. And that's the point of this exercise as well, so that we understand when it's the time to load the boat and when it's the time to be careful. So in this case, I see this as time to be careful because we don't have a clear market direction. Price has been going up and down and hasn't really done anything, right? So a clear direction for me would be something like this, where we have a support and resistance area, price closes to the downside, does not break the high. That's a clear signal that price is going to move lower, right? Or we have a pin bar where we have a large pin to the upside and we're looking for price to go lower. Or we have a bullish pin bar and we're looking for price to go higher. So any of those, this bearish engulfing candle close here, I would look for price to go lower, right? So it's one of those setups that are actually, I consider good candle closes, whereas this one here, it's going like this, right? So anything that goes like this is messy. It looks very messy. So either it needs to break up to the upside and give us a good solid candle close like this for us to trade this higher, or we need to see a close below this level so that we can look for price to drop further. So for now, as long as it stays below this level, I will look for it to drop. Gregory, that's a very, very good question. Sorry, very important thing. Gregory says that missing a bad trade is not missing much. The focus has to be on high probability trades. And this is where, from the mindset perspective, it's really challenging. And sometimes I find myself getting into these sort of kind of getting stuck with a trade as well, just because we so want the trade to work out. We're so focused on that one pair. We're so focused on that one level that, we're just forcing things, whereas like this is forcing things. And I have to say, today I kind of did that because markets were choppy today. It just went back and forth, and I was in this pound yen and euro yen trade. Really, it's choppy market conditions. It's just best to not be there. So yes, from time to time, we get into these very tunnel vision type of things where we just can't see the forest for the trees. And this exercise here will help us sort of drill that into our mind, because this here is choppy. Why do we even want to be in there, right? Like, look at this. It's just not going anywhere. It's just pretending it's going, but it's not really going very far. Whereas if we have this kind of a setup here, we kind of sell it, right? So that's why we need to see a clear trade setup. For me, this would not be a clear trade setup. And again, I would look for a lower time frame. So it's okay to keep it in mind, keep the level in mind, and then we look at this area to see if it gives us a short opportunity. So now let's take a look. Excuse me. All right, so now price is closed to the other side. This actually is a good candle close. I do like this candle because one, it engulfs the previous price action here. So that's a big bullish candle, is bigger than any of these candles. And we have a pin to the downside, not such a big pin on the upside. So what do we expect price to do from here? Okay, so I will look for price to go higher here. That's looking bullish. So my target would be up here. So I'd be looking for price to go higher. So let's take a look. Okay, so it goes higher, but doesn't quite make it to the next support. So it doesn't quite make it to the higher level here. It just gets stuck right there. So it goes and tests this previous pin, and then we see a big drop. Okay, so now we have a bearish candle. What do we expect now? So here, I would be looking for, I like this candle. And the reason I like this candle here is because it's a bearish engulfing candle. So it engulfs the previous price action. It went and tested a support resistance level, and then it closed like it means business. I'm looking for price to drop from here. So my bias would be to the downside. So I would look for maybe a bit of a pullback, but my bias is to the downside. I'm looking for price to go down lower. And another thing to keep in mind is just kind of a note on that here. So this price move here is also called the compressed move, right? So compressed move is where price pretends like it's doing something, or it looks like it's going to do something, but it doesn't really go anywhere. And usually when we have a compressed move, price can actually reverse. So it's actually a reversal signal, or an early potential reversal signal, when we see price compressing into a level. Okay, so here, I would short here actually. The problem with trading the daily time frame, if we just wanted to trade the daily time frame, what we have to do then is we have to put our stop above here, right? Another way to do that is to wait for a bit of a pullback. So normally on the day-to-day, what I would do is I would look for a pullback. So I will look for a pullback into the daily pivot, which is about 38% Fibonacci level. And then I will look for a drop from there. And if you don't get it, if price stays here, then I would just short it there. So that's what I would normally do. So here my bias is to the downside, and I'm looking for price to drop. So let's take a look. I'm not quite seeing the flag there, Greg. The flag for me would be more kind of like here, where price drops, then goes sideways, and I'm looking for price to drop. So if this was hanging out here, and then I would consider that a flag. So this is more of a pullback. So now we have a big bearish engulfing. So this is why I like this type of a candle. See what happens, right? See how it didn't even pull back. So another way of kind of dealing with this is putting half a position at the close of the candle with stop on top, and then saving the half for that pullback. So once the price pulls back, you can then have a full position on. So splitting the position, that's another strategy to sort of test the markets with half a position and then add on to that position, as long as we are confident that the price is going to drop. So here, so now we have a big bearish candle close. We are into this next support and resistance level. Not quite, but we are almost there. So where do we expect the price to go from here? Okay, so for me here, I would be looking for price to pull back perhaps, and then drop some more. Overall, the bias is bearish. Okay, so here's our pullback. So I'm looking for price to pull back into this level here and then drop. So let's see if that happens. There we go. So it didn't exactly go there. It just came a little bit lower into this previous pin here and then dropped. So normally when we have a large candle that's bearish like this, I generally look for a pullback. and then drop. So that's why it's a good idea to wait for a pullback, or just use Fibonacci levels or pivot point or something to look for those pullback levels before we drop. So now we have a bearish candle close. What are we expecting here now? So for me here, we do have, let's say, goes down. So now we are into the support resistance area, right? Which makes things kind of interesting because we are into support. That means we can get that pullback. Price could move higher. So I would be cautious. And this is where we need to see how price will react in this area. So I will look for price to pull back a bit and then drop again into the low. And if it stays below the low, I will look for a continuation move to the downside. So let's take a look. Okay, so it pulled back a bit, and then we have this little doji. Now what we expect here? Okay, so bounce or break lower. Yeah, I would, that's what I would expect either. So we would go to a smaller time frame, and I would look at this little area here, because either, yeah, the price is going to go up or it's going to go down, right? Because it's into support. So either we need to look for a break and then a move to the downside, or we need to look for price to hold above this level. And that's why going to a smaller time frame can be quite beneficial, because then we can see price action closer to the actual level here. So here, my overall bias still stays to the downside. Okay, so here we are. It went and tested the same level once again, and now we are dropping. We are right into the bottom of this other candle here. So where to from here? Okay, for me, I would be bearish on this. So right now we do need to see a close below this previous pin, but I like this candle because it does have pin on the upside. We have another pin, so almost like a tweezer top here, and we have a bearish candle close that engulfs this previous price action. So that's why I do like it. So I'm looking for price to drop lower. So my bias is to the downside here, and I'm going to have a quick look. So looking for price to perhaps go into the next support and resistance area right there. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so here we are, goes into the next support and resistance area. So bias is a bearish. Now what do we expect from here? So for me here, this is when we zoom out and see what's going on in the broader, on the broader scale here. So what I see here is that price is into support, but there is more room to the downside. So overall, my bias is still to the downside because price is making lower highs, lower lows. So bias stays to the downside. And what we need to do here is, here price could pull back here and then drop again, but overall bias is to the downside. So let's take a look. Okay, so we're seeing a bit of a pullback. Praveen says range bound, Pritpal says sideways, and then let's take a look. Okay, so here we are. Price is holding so far, holding below this previous support and resistance area. So what do we expect here? So here, because price is staying here below this support and resistance area, my bias is still to the downside. So I will be looking for a further drop here. Okay, so it drops into our support. So it drops into our support level here. We have pins into this level. Price hasn't been able to break the support. So now we are at an interesting level. It's kind of holding sideways here. So for the last 4 days, it's just sat sideways here. So this is a bit of a critical level because we do have a downward bias, but price is going sideways, right? It's kind of like this. So it could pull back or it could drop. So because this is a range bound move here, I would look to see what price does. So either we need to see a close above the high or we need to see a close below the low. Otherwise, I would be reluctant to really engage with this price because it doesn't really have any kind of a clear direction at the moment. Okay, so here we go. Price tries to go higher. And now we have a big bearish engulfing candle close where price engulfs the previous price action here. What do we expect price to do now? So in this case here, I like the candle here. This is a nice bearish engulfing candle. We have a pin on the top. So here I'm looking for price to go down. So I have multiple answers here. Pritpal, Shuman, Praveen all saying it's likely to go down. So I am on the same team here. So I'm looking for it to drop. Okay, so it doesn't quite do that. And instead, we have this bullish engulfing candle close here. Price just wasn't able to break the low. So that's developing to be a strong level of support. So where to from here? So now I would be looking for price to go up higher. And because we have a bullish candle close here, Pitbull says up as well. So I'm looking for price to go up higher. So let's see if we can get that. Okay, didn't quite do it. So we are still in that sideways consolidation. Price hasn't gone anywhere. We're just going back and forth like a ping pong ball here, not really seeing a break in direction. So under these kind of circumstances, really, I'm just looking for, this is when we go trade something else because we need to see a clear break either above the high here or below this level here. So we can figure out where the price is going to go. So right now we have a drop, we have sideways consolidation. And in terms of the flag here, we could drop further, or if we get a reversal, we could go all the way up, but we don't know which direction the price wants to go at this point. So we just have to wait and see. So at this point, I would just go look for a different, something else. And then depending on where the price closes, then go in that direction. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we are, price breaks higher. And Sunny said it looks like a similar to the setup on the left. So I'm assuming you said you were looking at this one and price breaks out to the upside. So where to now? Yeah, so prices have gone up from here. So now we are bullish, but we are into the next support and resistance area. So I would look for a pullback here and maybe a retest of the high. And if it breaks above, then I'd be looking for price to go all the way into the high. So right now I'm looking for price to drop into the support here. So pull back and then go up and test the high once again, high of this candle. So let's take a look. Okay, so now we are back into the range once again. I was looking for price to hold above this previous support and resistance level. So it's not quite a bearish engulfing candle close here, but price has gone back down. And that's a little, so we're basically in the chop right now as well. So what are we expecting here now? So for me, I'd be looking for price to maybe drop back into the bottom of the range here once again. Let's see. And we go into the high. So the pullback that I was looking for was a much deeper pullback than what I was looking for. And now we are back into the high. So this is why I don't trade. I don't like trading these sideways kind of moves because they are very choppy and they can drive you insane trying to figure out where price is going to go. So I do like clear directional moves like this, clear candlestick formations where we can actually figure out where price is going to go next. All right, so now that we have a bullish candle close here, what are we looking for? So for me here, important thing here would be to look for the high. What happens at the high? So if price stays below the high here, and this is again, I would go to a lower time frame here and see what happens at this high. If it stays below the resistance, then we could see price come back lower. But if it holds above here, then we're looking for price to move up higher. So Gregory asked a question, Roman, would you always expect the pullback to be from a different candle? Yeah, we can have pullback in the same candle. So we don't have to have the split here. See this here, price pulled back and then dropped, right? So in this candle here, price pulled back and then dropped. So yeah, so you can have the pullback in the same candle, but when the price is going up, it's the pin is to the downside, then that becomes a little yeah, so that would not work too well. So when I'm looking for price to go down, I'm looking for price to pull up and then drop. And when I'm looking for it to go up, I'm looking for it to pull down and then go back up. But it won't be in this candle, it will be in the next candle. So not this candle, but the next candle. But it doesn't have to be in two separate candles like this. It could have just pulled back and this candle could have closed up higher. So that can certainly happen. All right, so now, so again, I will look for the price reaction at the high here. So let's take a look. Here we are. So price stays below here. So where to now? Okay, so here I would be looking for price to drop back down into the next support and resistance level right there. So I'm looking for, because we've been trading in this range, price hasn't broken the high. With 3 different days here, I will be looking for price to drop. Okay, so price drops. Okay, what next? So here, I like this candle close. So it says back to the level in the bottom. Yeah, that's what I would be looking for as well. I'm looking for price to drop back into the bottom. I do like this candle close because we have a pullback. And this is where this, Gregory, is the question that you were asking here. Price pulls back and then drops. So this is in the same candle. We have a pullback and then a drop. What I like about this candle is the price closes into the low, which means it could go lower. So here my bias is to the downside, looking for price to go into the bottom of the range. And it goes a little bit lower and we are back. So Shuman says, I think the pair is drunk. I would agree. Pair is choppy like crazy. Again, not a good one to trade. So if you take a look at it, this is the range that we are playing in, and it just goes back and forth. So still no clear direction after all this time. So this reminds me of pound dollar from this week. And last week, there has been no clear direction. It's in sideways range like this, just up and down and not really going anywhere. So here now, because we're in the middle of the range, looking for price to test the high once again. So my bias is to the upside into the resistance there. Okay, so we pull back and then we will go higher. Now, what do we expect? So for me from here, I would be looking for price to test the high still. Let's see if it does that. Okay, it tried. Not a very solid candle close here. What now? What can we expect next? Well, since we are at the top of the range, I will actually look for price to drop from here because it has dropped. And if it breaks to the upside, so this is again going into a lower time frame, would be very helpful here, because if it closes above, then it will go higher. But if it doesn't close above, this could actually be a good trading opportunity from the, because we are so close to the high, this could actually be a good trading opportunity if you're looking right into the high here, because either the price is going to break above or it's going to turn around and come back down, just like these other times. So at this point, I would be looking for price to come lower, but if it breaks higher, then I would be open to take it to the upside, and this is where lower time frame will help. Okay, so price breaks up, and now what do we expect? So question is, how do we know if there will be a pullback? So first of all, we don't know that there will be a pullback, but I expect a pullback, because the way the prices move, generally there are pullbacks. Most times there are pullbacks. So I go in expecting a pullback, but because we don't know if there will be a pullback or not. And the way I figure out where the pullback level will be, I use daily pivots. So pivot point is generally my point of reference. I'm looking for a pullback into the daily pivot, which is at 38% retracement level. So if you like Fibonacci, that's the 38% retracement level, usually falls at the same level as the daily pivot. So, and that's one of the reasons I don't always draw Fibonacci levels, because I kind of know, just because I use the daily pivot, where the fib levels fall. So, so in this case, I will look for a pullback, and I will look for a move to the upside back into this area here. So that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so in this case, for example, we didn't get much of a pullback. It was a tiny little pullback, and price went into the next level right here. So now what do we expect? Okay, so here I would be looking for price to go back into the high once again. So let's take a look. Okay, wow, that's a tiny candle. Okay, what do we expect from here? Yeah, so I'll be looking for price to test the top here once again, but it looks like price is losing momentum. So it could turn around here, and that's a strong level where price had previously reacted from. So it could do a move to the downside, because we could get a double top here, but we cannot assume that we'll get a double top. So the best thing to do here is to see how price reacts at this level. So I'm looking for, this is where I would go into a smaller time frame. I'm looking for retest at the high, but I would be looking at a smaller time frame to see how the price will react. Okay, so here we have sideways move, or I should say indecision candle, very, very neutral. Candle here hasn't broken above the high. So this is one of those days where I wouldn't trade this pair. I would go look for opportunities in different pairs that have better signals here. So here, next one would be, again, what the price does at the high, because there is this indecision candle. Now it could break up, or it could break to the downside, or it could pull back to the downside. So we just really need to see. And overall, our bullish momentum is sort of weaning here. So let's take a look. Okay, so price tries to go higher and then almost into the high here, and we have a big pin on the top. So what do we expect next? So here I am looking for price to go into the high once again do a retest and then see if we can get either a reversal signal or something suggesting that price will likely drop. And the reason I'm looking for a drop here is because we have a big candle close here. So do I use a stop order? I'm not using a pending orders right now, but that is my intention. And part of doing these back testing sessions are really for me to figure out where exactly my pending orders need to be, so that I can do those. But for now, I'm just taking market orders. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, so price tries to test it and doesn't quite make it into the high. So what are we expecting? Okay, so for me here, that looks like a tweezer top now. So I'm looking for price to drop from there. It could go test the high once again, but overall, I'm looking for price to reverse now and go back lower. So let's take a look. Okay. So there we are, price drops, but then we are into the next support level and we have a pin in the bottom, but we do have a bearish candle body here. So what do we expect? So here I would be looking for price to test the low once again and see if it will try to break through it. So my bias will be shifting a bit here. Okay, so it stays above the high, and now we are in sideways chop once again. So let's see what happens. So I would be looking for price to go into the high and test the high once again. Okay, we just have not much of a candle there, so I'll try again. Okay, so price is not able to break the high, and this is the kind of candle I do like. So this is the kind of candle I do like. And the reason I like this candle is because it's nice. It's a big, solid candle close. And now I'm looking for price to drop from here. So that's a big bearish engulfing. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, so we have a bullish candle close, and it's about. So let's see. So what's next? Okay. So here now we're again in the sideways chop, but overall we don't have a bullish engulfing candle close. So I am still a little biased to the downside. So great. You are biased bullish. I'm biased bearish. Let's take a look. Ripples up too. All right. No, don't be bearish just yet. Let's see first. Okay, so now we have a neutral candle close. Let's see what happens next. Okay, so now we have a bearish candle. What now? Okay, so I would be looking for price to drop further here. Let's take a look. Oh, now we have a big bullish candle close right into the high. All right, so we are in a very choppy market once again. So price went choppy right here, had a nice move to the upside, and then now we're choppy once again. We're closing right into the high of our range there. And I think this is where we will wrap it up for today. And then tomorrow when we come back, we will see, to be continued, what happens after this big bullish candle close right into the high. Okay, Gregory says bearish. Let's take a look. We are into resistance, some solid resistance, but we have a big bullish candle here. So let's take a look. All right, so let's wrap it up for today. You guys have a wonderful evening. And actually, I won't be here tomorrow. We'll continue this on Monday. And starting Monday, we'll actually start doing forward testing as well. So in the forward testing, what I have been doing this week is I've been putting these trade levels in the spreadsheet. So when we do this, we'll take a look at, before we go into back testing, we'll take a look at what's going on during the week. So what from yesterday's analysis that I did, what happens, did that actually happen? So this way we'll include forward testing as well as backward testing. So we'll add that little component into it. All right, you guys have a wonderful evening and a wonderful weekend. And I will see you on Monday then. Bye for now.